Well, we're going to get a bit more analysis now with Filippo Dionigi, who joins me from Bristol. Filippo, just off the back of what Iris was saying moments ago, I mean, what are your thoughts on the fears of this spiraling into a bigger war? I mean, it's something that we are seeing this retaliation, these threats of retaliation, and yet we are also hearing from many of the parties involved that no one wants this to turn into a regional war. How do you see this moving forward?
I think the possibility of a regional conflagration of this war is something that cannot be excluded. But in the short to medium term, what I'm expecting instead is a process of escalation and response that will try to balance a sort of balance between re-establishing deterrence for Iran in particular, and also trying to deliver the symbolic value of avenging the death of Haniyeh. There are multiple fronts here at stake. There is Iran on one hand, there is Hamas and Gaza on the other, but there is also the question of Lebanon and Hezbollah with the presumed killing of Shukr yesterday evening.
Right. Iran's supreme leader is already threatening vengeance on Israel. I mean, how is this attack different in the fact that it was indeed on Iranian soil?
Well, it is different because it shows that Israel has access to Iranian territory for its operation. It is different because it has been carried out from the air, as far as we know, whereas before previous assassination, previous extra-legal assassination carried out presumably by Israel were carried out with agents on the ground, and therefore it exacerbates the sense of insecurity of Iran in front of an Israeli threat, right? So that somehow upset the balance and the deterrence capacity of Iran against possible Israeli threats. And therefore, Iran feels compelled to respond and reestablish that deterrence balance with Israel.
Well, how might concretely it do that?
Probably we're going to see something similar to what we saw in response to the attacks of the Iranian embassy and consulate in Damascus. That's the least we can expect, at least, which was a gradual and sort of long-term response that has produced suspense and sense of insecurity among the Israelis. And then it turned out to be an attack against Israeli territory, demonstrating the capacity to attack Israeli territory, although then that attack was prevented by the Iron Dome at that point. My sense is that, again, Iran will have to balance a response that will have symbolic value for the support with the Palestinian front, and that will establish deterrence against Israel, but will not necessarily produce the consequence of a regional all-out war, because that's not what Iran wants to achieve anyway.
Indeed. And another key piece of this puzzle, of course, is the conflict with Hezbollah in Lebanon. How does this attack link to that attack Tuesday in Beirut?
I think there are two separate issues here. Yesterday's attack in Beirut was a response, and this was acknowledged and declared by Israeli forces themselves, a response to Saturday's massacre in the occupied Golan Heights. And also here, the idea was that Israel had to respond to an attack that has caused more than 12 casualties, mostly minors, and therefore had to demonstrate its capacity to prevent the possibility of such attacks to occur again, right? But the response was against a military target, that is Fuad Shukr, a leading military figure within Hezbollah, meaning that Israel was in fact acting within what were the informal rules of engagement of the conflict between Israel and Hezbollah, and therefore giving the possibility to Hezbollah to respond also within those rules of engagement, and therefore not necessarily escalate the conflict further, but continue along the same lines of how the conflict has unfolded thus far since October 8th.
Filippo, thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us. Filippo Dionigi in Bristol.
Thank you.